welcome everybody. We've got a fantastic set of speakers that are behind the scenes now. We're going to talk about some of the fantastic things that they've been sharing on the stage. We've been on the planning stage and we've been talking about a lot of things, everything from building information modeling, implementing ISO 19650 to agile to data ownership and how you can plan for the full life cycle, and also platforms and how to actually implement digital. I'm sure you've got a lot of questions as well. Please put them in the chat and I'll grill our panelists. But maybe to kick it off, Pedro, can you start us off? I heard some really important aspects of agile in your presentation, but regarding not just agile from a process perspective, but also for people and technology too. What should people be focusing on when they are implementing agile? What should be the main thing that they should focus on?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I think that the implementation of agile, as we were talking here off, is something that can be very challenging, even nowadays. And I think in my presentation, I introduced the three pillars that I think that might be the most important ones when implementing agile. I would say that I talked about people, processes, and technology. And regarding people, I think that agile is not possible, or the implementation of agile, it's not possible without a cultural shift in our organizations or even in industry. A clear definition of different roles and responsibilities, because nowadays I think we are facing, at least in the architecture part of the AEC industry, we are facing huge challenge also in terms of people and their skills. And I think that we more than ever we have to have different profiles working in the same teams. And so I think defining roles and responsibilities is also very important in terms of people. And of course, fostering this collaboration and communication, that is something that is also that has a common ground with BIM, and invest in a career development. In terms of processes, I think that embracing the best practices and aligning the project and the organizational policies with the international standards is also, I would say, almost mandatory. And looking to this continuous improvement that BIM is also focused on, and taking care of the data and the data-driven decision making is also very important in terms of processes. And related to technology, I think that choosing or applying the essential tools and the ones that can help us integrating also BIM is really important, and be updated to the emerging technologies, inclusive, of course, AI and other automation tools. And of course, then we have to prioritize cybersecurity, ensure a robust infrastructure, and so on. So I think these are the three pillars, and maybe these are maybe, in my opinion, the things that we should take care of when implementing agile. And of course, this is about change management and so on. So I think there are a lot of very challenging things.
Absolutely, yeah. So the people, process, and tools, and how to actually do some of that, I'm going to come back to you. But let's bring in Dalia and start talking about some of the strategies of planning and managing change through the life cycle of a project. What should people, from your talk, from your discussion, what should people be mainly focused on in those strategic levels? Dalia, I think you're muted at the moment. Are you able to join us? Maybe while we're waiting for you to maybe unmute, I'm not sure whether I can do that. Let me bring Ian in. Ian, you talked about a plan from a critical digital platform and bringing everything together, and it was a whirlwind, and you really talked about a lot of different things. What do you think is the most difficult part of implementing the strategy that you introduced?
Morning, Clive. How you doing?
Doing very well, very well. Welcome, Ian.
Good. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to take in there. I was trying to cover the whole process, maybe trying to fit too much in as usual. But yeah, I think the most important stuff is to really get crystal clear on your objectives at the beginning of the process. As we always say, the planning at the early stages is the most important part, and that not only is important for the project itself and getting the client crystal clear on what they want to achieve out of their project, what their goals and objectives are, and all of those sorts of things. But it's also getting the digital space correctly set up at the very early stages. So making sure that all of those aspects are dealt with at an early stage so that you have a viable project all the way through from that point on. As we say in buildings, if you don't have a solid foundation, then the building is going to collapse. And it's the same with any project and all the digital processes. If you don't set up your foundation at the very beginning correctly, then you're going to end up with a lot of issues further on down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned processes as well. So Pedro, you were talking about processes and agile. What's quite interesting, I saw the diagram or the comparison between agile project management and BIM, and I saw the comparison between iterative processes in agile and the iterative collaboration required in a BIM workflow. Can you talk more about that? Because we think about a project being starting and going through a workflow and finishing, but actually when it comes to BIM, there's more iteration, and when it comes to agile, there's more iteration. How do they both complement each other, the concepts of agile, Pedro, in that workflow?
Well, I think as I showed in this table you talked about, I think they have a lot of things in common, and that this interactive process can be completely aligned between them. And I don't know, I think agile also depends on every circumstances and every project circumstances. And of course, we need always to adapt the way we conduct the process within the team and within the project. But I would say that this interactive process, that can be something that can be also planned in the BIM perspective. And so we can use the building information methodologies to adapt to this interactive, or to adopt this interactive process. I can give an example. I'm working on now in a huge project, healthcare project, and of course this interactive process is also very important in terms of BIM, because we have regular deliveries to the client, and regular updates, and regular retrospectives about not only the project itself, but also the way we work together. So I think that they can perfectly match, but of course it depends on every situation, and needs to be always adapted and adjusted to its circumstances, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And bringing Ian back in, Dalia, I'm not sure whether you can hear us, but we cannot hear you at the moment. You're muted on the line, so probably there's a button at the bottom with a microphone. If you try and turn that, and then I'll head some questions your way. But moving back to Ian, there's a question from Jonathan in the chat. You were talking about supply chain management as an integrated digital platform, and as we talk about that iterative nature of BIM and workflows, obviously supply chain, they don't all come on at the same time. So there is some form of iterative addition of teams as you go through a project. How does BIM get involved in that? And how does planning address some of those issues for supply chain management?
Well, I think supply chain management needs to be, as you say, coordinated, and it's a phased approach. But I think it needs to be very much coordinated into the BIM process. because a lot of supply chain data is required early on so that that supply chain can be properly integrated into the BIM process, into the 3D model, so that you're collecting the data from the components that those supply chains are using into the design, into the specifications correctly very early on, so that you then have a fully integrated process, and everybody understands where the specialist contractor or the supply chain is coming from. Too often the supply chain is left to the very end after the main contractor or everything has been procured, and then you find that the issues with lead-in time for materials, ability of that material to integrate with what's been designed has not been thought through, and then you've got adaptive issues and variations needed too late into the process, which often leads to delays and disputes and all that sort of thing. So it's critical to bring the supply chain in as early as possible, and more importantly, to listen to their particular issues with their products and their services, so that everybody fully understands that and integrates it in fully into the collaborative process.
Mm-hmm. And we always think of supply chain management using software and putting Gantt charts together so you get lead times and things like that. But Pedro, you were talking about people as one of these pillars and trying to train and educate on supply chain, on things that aren't necessarily somebody's first thought. How have you seen that be beneficial? Have you seen teams be able to have that training in place and education so that from a lean and an agile perspective, it can be more well thought through and planned, and obviously trying to eliminate the problems? Anything there that you've seen be beneficial?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I think nowadays we are also facing huge challenging in terms of human resources and people. And I think that we have more than ever, the projects are becoming more and more complex, and we need different profiles and different different type of skills within our teams. And in that perspective, I think in the term, if you want, in related to the management side of the project, I think we really need more skills, at least in the architecture perspective. And definitely, I think that having these different profiles and having multiple skills within the same team or within the same organization is really beneficial to the entire organization. Of course, this demands also a plan to improve and to make that this disruption. But I would say that this is maybe one of the main focuses that we need to enhance nowadays, and yeah, definitely makes a difference to have these multiple skills within the team, and more than ever we need people with management skills and with this vision, an holistic vision about the entire process and the different levels of activity that we have in our industry. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So training and bringing people along for the ride, but early on. Obviously, there's lots of challenges that we experience, and I think one of those is that sometimes it's boring to plan. Yeah, people want to do stuff. People want to get on with things, and so maybe what would you say, Ian, to that? Why would it be important, and how can you actually get people enthusiastic about planning in the detail that's required? Because it's something that you need to have in place, but it's not really the first thing that people want to do necessarily. It's easy. It's much more attractive. It's like building a building information model. It's much nicer to build it and spin it around on the screen than it is to plan what you're going to put in it. Can you talk to that about planning the detail? Oh, Dalia, hey.
Hello, Claire.
We can hear.
Yes, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe you could talk to that point.
Okay, planning is boring for a lot of people, but with the BIM, okay. just had echo in my headset. I don't know how to stop it. Okay, can you hear me clearly now?
We can.
Okay. You was talking about planning and how it's boring and most of the professionals avoiding it, or especially clients wants to get in the job as soon as possible and to see what we are going to do in front of our eyes as soon as we can without planning or Gantt charts or things like this. I think it's a cultural wise, or you have to push people to do it, and you have to let them know the importance of planning, especially with the information management we're talking about in BEM. BEM is all about information. And if you don't know what exactly the level of information you need, you are going to make extra work you don't want to do or you don't need to do. You will pay more money, you spend more time. And at the end, you have a lot of data you don't know how to manage. So the planning process is very important at the start of the project, especially with the client. I can see now that most of the clients don't have a clear vision about what exactly they need from BIM or from adopting BIM in their projects. They just want everything uh, as much as we can. They don't count how they are going to spend on this. So I think we need awareness for the clients, especially to clarify this point for them.
And what are some of those biggest challenges that you see? So we talked around a lot of them, but what would you say is the biggest challenge to people planning BIM in that early stage?
The biggest challenge, determining what exactly you are going to do at the end of the project. Most of us, we didn't train or didn't educate what to think about after giving the project. The operation phase, we never think about it as engineers. Now we have to think about the operation phase and how we are going to deal with it. So I think this is the big challenge, to have the whole picture of the project from the beginning to the end, not just the phase you are going to work with. Education must change in the engineering, in the AC industry. We have to teach engineers how to think business-wise and think for the lifespan of the project, in all the life cycle of the project. Not only the phase of design or the phase of construction. Project is not design and construction. Project is for lifetime, for operation, for a long time. It will serve in the community.
And so that's an interesting point you made about the owner maybe not knowing what they need. And I hear that a lot from both sides of the table. BIM teams saying that the owners either asked for way too much and they don't really know what they're asking for, or they've not asked for anything and they don't know what they're asking for. So there's this challenge of obviously, if the owner asks for certain things, how can teams help them, support them to get to the right set of requirements that's going to be useful for operations and down the line? Pedro, any closing thoughts on how Agile can help with that? Getting, obviously everyone talks about this, begin with the end in mind. It's very easy to say, but how do you do that using an Agile approach?
Ian, Clive, sorry, I had some problems. I didn't listen the entire question. You are referring to, in terms of Agile implementation, you're referring how can Agile support specifically what? Sorry.
So as an owner, a lot of the time they're not clear on what their requirements are for BIM.
Yeah.
And with Agile, it's, we talk about beginning with the end in mind, but how does Agile help us to ensure the owner's requirements are detailed and met throughout the whole project?
So I think that is also an advantage of Agile, and also for BIM, because even if the client has no a complete idea of what they want to achieve in terms of project, I think Agile, with this interactive process and all this openness to the changes, this can of course help us and support us in terms of project team to integrate new changes throughout the entire project lifecycle, and to try to adapt to the new circumstances that the client also demands throughout this project lifecycle. So I think Agile can also be a support in terms of the different changes that the client demands in different stages of the project. Of course, it is completely impossible to adapt to every single thing, and of course we cannot change or have a lot of changes until the very end of the project. But I think that Agile allow us to adapt quickly to this to new requirements, for example, at least in the early stages of the project, and yeah. So.
I love it. I think I could talk about Agile and BIM and ISO 19650 and project management tools for a long time. Unfortunately, we do have to break there. So I'll say anybody wants to join us in the lounge afterwards, there is an opportunity to keep the conversation going. I want to thank Dalia, Pedro, and Ian for sharing their thoughts and also for presenting. We really appreciate your words, your input, and I'm sure that if you want to continue the conversation with any one of them, they'll be open to it as we go into the rest of the conference.
For sure.
Thank you, Clive. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.